So Angela and Joseph returned to Umuahia. Angela gave birth to a bouncing baby boy. She named him Isaac. And so, after they returned to Abbey Estate to complete the marital rites, Angela's parents were overjoyed to finally receive their son-in-law properly. Joseph paid the bride price with enthusiasm, bringing cola nuts, palm wine, and all the traditional requirements. Angela's mother praised God, saying her prayers had finally been answered. Her daughter was now a proper wife with a beautiful child. Imagine yourself being married to a ghost for 7 years without having any clue about it. And even having a child for him or her. Sit tight as I unveiled this story to you. For the next 6 years, Angela and Joseph lived what seemed to be a perfect life in Umuahia. Joseph's law practice was thriving, or so it appeared to Angela. He would leave every morning in his crisp suits, carrying his briefcase, and return in the evenings with stories of cases he'd handled and clients he'd met. Little Isaac grew into a bright, energetic boy who looked remarkably like his father. Joseph was an attentive father, playing with Isaac, teaching him to read and telling him bedtime stories about brave lawyers who fought for justice. Angela's orange business also began to flourish. Somehow she always seemed to have the right connections, the best suppliers and customers who paid well. She attributed this success to her husband's good luck and prayers. The couple appeared happy to everyone who knew them. They attended church together, visited Angela's family regularly, and were respected members of their community. Angela often thanked God for bringing Joseph into her life when she had almost given up on love. However, there were peculiarities that Angela chose to overlook, blinded by her happiness. Joseph never seemed to eat much. He would prepare elaborate meals for Angela and Isaac, but barely touched his own food. When Angela questioned this, he would say he had eaten at work or had stomach problems. He never fell sick. Not once in 7 years did Joseph catch a cold, fever, or any illness. Angela marveled at his strong constitution, joking that he had the immunity of a superhuman. Strangely, none of Angela's friends or neighbors seemed to remember seeing Joseph clearly. They would greet him politely, but later ask Angela vague questions about her husband, as if they couldn't quite place him. Joseph never invited anyone from his law firm to their home. He claimed to be very private about his family life, keeping work and home separate. Angela respected this boundary, though she sometimes wondered about his colleagues. Most peculiarly, Joseph cast no reflection in mirrors. Angela noticed this several times, but convinced herself she was imagining things or that the mirrors were dirty. How could a living person not have a reflection? In 2018, Angela's curiosity finally got the better of her. Isaac, now 6 years old, had been asking questions about his father's work. He wanted to visit Daddy's office and meet his colleagues. Angela decided to surprise Joseph at his workplace. She had the address. Joseph had mentioned working at a law firm called Njoku and Associates on Ikot Ekpene Road. With Isaac in tow, she took a taxi to the location. When they arrived, Angela's heart sank. The building existed, but it housed a pharmacy, not a law firm. She asked the pharmacist about Njoku and Associates, but he had never heard of such a firm at that address. Confused, Angela visited other law firms in Umuahia, asking if they knew a barrister named Joseph from Ebonyi State. None of them had heard of him. She checked with the Nigerian Bar Association's local branch. No record of any Joseph matching her husband's description. Growing desperate, Angela hired a private investigator using her savings from the orange business. She needed to know the truth about the man she had been married to for 7 years. 3 weeks later, the investigator called Angela with devastating news. He had found records of a Joseph who matched her husband's description, but there was a problem. "Ma'am," the investigator said carefully, "I found the man you described, Joseph Okwu from Ebonyi State. He was indeed a lawyer. But according to official records, he died in a car accident in April 2012, just outside Umuahia. He was buried in his hometown in Ebonyi State." Angela's world crumbled. April 2012, that was exactly when she met Joseph in the taxi. The investigator continued, "I have his death certificate and burial records. He died on April 15th, 2012. You said you met your husband on April 16th, 2012? Angela couldn't speak. The dates matched perfectly. She had met Joseph the day after his death. That evening, Angela waited for Joseph to return home. Her hands shook as she held the documents the investigator had provided. Death certificate, newspaper report of the accident, photos from the burial.
When Joseph walked through the door, looking as handsome and alive as ever, Angela confronted him. "Joseph," she said, her voice trembling, "I need you to tell me the truth. Who are you, really?" Joseph looked at her with the same loving eyes she had known for 7 years. "What do you mean, my dear? I'm your husband." Angela placed the death certificate on the table. "Then explain this. Joseph Okwu, lawyer from Ebony State, died in a car accident on April 15th, 2012. I met you on April 16th. Joseph's expression didn't change, but something shifted in the air around them. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. "Angela," he said softly, "does it matter? Haven't I been a good husband to you? Haven't I loved you and Isaac? Haven't I provided for this family?" "You're dead," Angela screamed. "You've been dead for 7 years. What are you?" Joseph sat down calmly. "I am what you needed me to be. When I died in that accident, I had so much unfinished business, so much love left to give. God allowed me to find you, to experience the family I never had in life." As Joseph spoke, Angela began to see him differently. His form seemed less solid, more translucent. The man she had loved was indeed a ghost, a spirit who had found a way to interact with the physical world through the power of love and longing. "I never meant to deceive you," Joseph continued. "After my accident, I was lost, confused. But when I saw you in that taxi, struggling to pay your fare, something in my spirit was drawn to help you. You were so kind, so genuine. And when you smiled at me, I felt alive again." Angela realized that all the strange occurrences now made sense. The lack of reflection, the absence of appetite, the way people couldn't quite remember him clearly, these were the signs she had ignored. "What about Isaac?" she whispered. "How is that possible? Love transcends death, Angela. Our connection was so strong that it manifested new life. Isaac is real. He's ours. But he carries both the world of the living and the spirit realm within him." As the truth settled in, Angela noticed that Joseph was becoming more transparent. His time in the physical world was ending. "I can't stay much longer," he said sadly. "The energy required to maintain this form is fading. I've used up all my spiritual strength over these 7 years." "No," Angela cried. "You can't leave us now. Isaac needs his father." "I will always watch over you both," Joseph promised. "But I must return to where I belong. My time in this world was borrowed time." Over the next few days, Joseph grew weaker and more translucent. Isaac, with the innocence of a child, seemed to understand what was happening better than his mother. "Daddy's going to heaven, isn't he?" Isaac asked one morning. Angela couldn't hold back her tears. "Yes, my son. Daddy has to go home." On the 7th anniversary of their meeting, Joseph gathered his remaining strength for one final goodbye. He held Angela and Isaac, and for a moment, he felt solid and warm again. "Thank you," he whispered, "for giving me the most beautiful 7 years of existence. You made me feel alive when I was dead." As the sun set that evening, Joseph faded away completely, leaving behind only memories and the faint scent of his cologne. Angela was left to face the reality of her situation. She had been married to a ghost for 7 years and had a child whose father was from the spirit world. The community would never understand or believe her story. Isaac began to display unusual abilities. He could see and communicate with spirits, a gift inherited from his father's otherworldly nature. Angela knew their lives would never be normal. Unable to cope with the truth and the stares from neighbors who began to whisper about the strange woman whose husband had vanished, Angela fell into deep depression. She stopped her orange business, withdrew from social activities, and spent her days talking to the empty air, hoping Joseph would return. The tragedy deepened when Angela realized that no one would believe her story. When she tried to explain to her parents what had happened, they thought she had lost her mind. They wanted to take Isaac away from her, fearing she was having a mental breakdown. 3 months after Joseph's final departure, Angela made a devastating decision. Unable to live with the truth of her supernatural marriage and fearing for her son's future in a world that wouldn't understand him, she took Isaac to the same spot where she had first met Joseph, the road where his accident had occurred. On a rainy evening in October 2019, Angela and 7-year-old Isaac were found by the roadside. Angela had taken her own life, and Isaac, unable to survive without his mother's care and protection, had joined her in death. The local newspapers reported it as a tragic accident, but those who knew the family whispered about the strange circumstances. Some claimed they still saw the family together on that road. Angela, Joseph, and little Isaac finally reunited in the spirit world. Angela's parents buried her and Isaac beside each other, never fully understanding what had driven their daughter to such despair. They placed a headstone that read, "Angela and Isaac, reunited with love." The house in Umuahia, where the family had lived for 7 years, was abandoned. Neighbors reported strange sounds and the laughter of a child echoing from the empty rooms. Some claimed to see the figure of a man in a lawyer's suit standing by the window, still waiting for his family to come home. Angela's story became a local legend, a cautionary tale about the price of loving beyond the boundaries of life and death, and the tragedy that can unfold when the supernatural intersects with the ordinary world. In the end, Angela had gotten her wish for love and marriage, but the cost was higher than she could ever have imagined. Her 7 years of happiness with Joseph came as the ultimate price: her sanity, her life, and the life of their innocent child. The ghost husband had found love again, 7 years after his burial. But the living wife paid the ultimate price for loving a dead man. Share this video to others to learn from this. Share your experience in the comments section.